I talked to every group, every black and Latino group in the country. Do not put down your arms. Control your arms. And in the words of Gandhi, and I will use Gandhi because so many people have misused Gandhi, and they forget that the first 33 members of Gandhi's organization, 15 of them were revolutionaries. And he said to them, never put down your guns because the British will slaughter us all. But I'm working on people who cannot, who will not take up guns to do what they can do and are able to do, that is, never buy a British product. But remember that first statement. Don't put down your arms, because if you do, the British will slaughter us all. And that goes for people in America. If we get rid of our arms, this terrorist government that has a history of terror from day one, when Columbus put his foot in the mud, to today, it's been to the death of people of color. And now I will get back to the subject of those people who were cultural, those people who were political, who started with Garvey, such as Queen Mother Moore, who joined the Communist Party, split from the Communist Party because of the question of racism. Within the party, there was and is racism. Within America, there was and is racism. And I pose this to you. Within the European nations, there was and is racism. Because if we look and see the last unified position on truth and reconciliation, and that took place in South Africa, we see the gentleman who pled guilty to torturing and dismembering 100 blacks of the ANC in South Africa is walking the streets today. And we have, and everybody in Europe said, wonderful, beautiful, President Obama, wonderful, beautiful. And yet in America we have black and Latino and indigenous prisoners of war in prison, and this government says no. And so, where is truth and reconciliation? There is as much racism in the European Union, in America now, as there ever was. And there will be no truth and reconciliation for our people, our political prisoners, until we do it. And I say, where the rubber meets the road is where my mother said we all are. And she says everyone is as they do, with no exception. We all are as we do, without exception. And so if we are going to be communists, and somebody said, well, Ralph, I'm going to ask you a theoretical question in terms of, are you a Democrat, a Republican, a socialist, or a communist? Put yourself in that list. And I say, I'm a little to the left of Stalin.
That's good.
It's no compromise on justice for everyone. I'm for the most radical position in the world today, and that is democracy for everyone.
It's true.
Everyone is in it. And I tell you, there are very few places you can go where people ascribe to that philosophy, democracy for everyone. We must understand that in context. And the context, the backdrop of that is the great Satan, which is America, has been working its evil. It's across the body politic of the world. And governments have to defend themselves against this evil. And you can't defend yourself against this evil being Mr. Nice Guy. And I remember the question, we often talk the question about, well, who's a communist, who isn't? Does Cuba have communism? Did Russia have communism? And I say, well, this is all theoretical as to who has what. But I would ask people to read Mumia Abu-Jamal on the death penalty. And he was on death row when he wrote it. And he said he supported Cuba 100%, even though it might cost him his life. But he says they have a right to defend themselves. And I'm going to take an aside here, if I'm not out of time, to tell a little joke. Another 2 minutes. This is a lawyer joke. A New York lawyer was talking to a Texas lawyer. And the New York lawyer asked the Texas lawyer, why is it that more people are killed in Texas on the death penalty than any other place, than for homicide? More people are found guilty of horse thieving and put to death than they are found guilty of murder and put to death. And the Texas lawyer answered, he never saw a horse that needed stealing. Now you can put that other statement. There are people who need killing. And yes, there are people who need killing, and when you mention certain names, you got no problem there. And I remember being started in my early years after having been a teacher, union organizer, etc. We were organizing to go south and to kill Sheriff Rainey, who came to New Jersey, and he was honored by the New Jersey troopers. The state troopers of New Jersey honored him, and his claim to fame was he had killed, executed 21 black men. And he said he didn't need a judge or a jury executioner, because he was all three. And to the credit of the governor of New Jersey at the time, told the troopers they could honor anyone they wanted, but they couldn't wear the New Jersey trooper uniform to the ceremony. And so the troopers just took off their uniforms and had the ceremony anyway. And so I said, there is no law, there is no justice except the justice that you can take at the moment where the rubber meets the road. This killer must be killed. He died a natural death, and that was the saddest thing I can imagine, that a person who was a known killer could die a natural death. He was a racist. He was everything negative wrapped into one. And okay, I'm going to close with where the rubber met the road. Now, I started in the unions 75 years ago. I was 6 years old when my father took me to my first union meeting. And one of the things that confused me was he taught me how to shake somebody's hand and look in their eye being introduced. And they called me brother. And when I got home, brother was a term we used for black people among each other. And this union, these union members called each other brother and acted like brothers. This is what the Communist Party brought to America. And I started off with Paul Robeson's influence in the arts community. And I talked about Dizzy Gillespie. Well, there were other musicians who were less aware. And Lester Young and Billie Holiday, very famous duo. Lester playing his horn and Billie Holiday singing. Lester was a right-wing person, and he told Billie Holiday, stop hanging out with those communists, because it will destroy your career. And so it goes through our society, and so the communist influence has been a great influence on the black American society through the person of Paul Robeson. And we today, put in the words of Malcolm X, we black people have been bamboozled theoreticians say metaphysical imperialism. But we have been bamboozled because very few, or too few black people, dare say the word communism or communist, and we're going to be in great trouble until we get over that and learn to say it. Thank you for your time.